Hey, welcome to Graphic Policy Television GPTV. I'm Brett. In my hands is How to Win the War on Truth, an illustrated guide to how mistruths are sold, why they stick, and how to reclaim reality, written by Samuel C. Spitale. I'm going with Spitale. I'm sorry if I mispronounced it. Allan Whincup. So first up, I received this book at San Diego Comic-Con at our journalism panel. No one has ever hit me up like that at the journalism panel, and I've done a few of them so far. So props. When it comes to marketing and PR or whatever you want to call it, that's the hustle. That was a hell of a hustle, so props to that. The book themselves, okay, so it's out in October right now. It came out October 25th, 2022. Been out for a while, and this is really interesting. It's kind of a mix of prose, kind of more like a textbook, and then there's some art with it. We'll show off some of the art to kind of get a good idea. It's kind of, it opens up taking us through the case of the woman who burnt herself with McDonald's coffee and the reality of all that. And this was actually really, really interesting book to read. It's fascinating. It's very educational. And I like it a lot. And I think it's actually really important, very pertinent, and kind of key to what's going on in reality right now. So we are bombarded with messaging. We're bombarded with propaganda. We call it today public relations, PR, marketing, whatever. It's all the same bullshit that stems out of over 100 years of honing and perfection and manipulation, whatever, again, whatever you want to call it. It's interesting. This goes through the history of that. The history is the same history that was in, I reviewed a book about 80s toys and cartoons and how we were marketed as kids. At least my generation was marketed for stuff as the kids, and how that really kicked off, and that marketing kind of spun out of the same stuff with this. It was Samuel Freud's, trying to think of his nephew or grandson or something like that. He basically started, it's nephew. He used his uncle's insights about how to manipulate public opinion. He did that magnificently. He did it in multiple ways, from getting it acceptable for women to smoke, to selling hairnets, to selling books. It was just used in his abilities were used in so many ways. His abilities were so good that they were then used and amplified by a regime in Germany, who then went on to start a world war and murder millions of people. So that propaganda, what was known as propaganda at the time, took a bit of a hit in PR, public relations, and it then did a pivot and started calling itself public relations and marketing, which is a little bit different, but they're kind of, two sides of the same coin. So from there, things have just kind of gone on and evolved. I mean, today we are bombarded. I think it says something like in 1960s, you were hit up with like 1,600 messages a day. It's now something like 11,000 messages a day, something like that. The amount that is hitting us daily is like just amplified. The amount of utter bullshit is amplified. As it points out, is no one uses propaganda for good. No one uses PR really for good, other than, it's being used to sell stuff. It doesn't necessarily mean physical goods to sell you, but sell you on ideas, organizations, facts, whatever you want to call it. Post-truths is thrown around in here. That today propaganda, PR, marketing is used to hoodwink you is what it really comes down to it, and that we need to, as a society, get smarter about these things to really kind of dive in and understand. And it opens up, as I said, with the story of the woman who burnt herself with coffee, and it goes through the facts. And it points out that we were sold a bill of goods by McDonald's, and then further, that was then spun out by numerous other corporations to manipulate tort laws. There was a whole movement around that story to benefit corporations and screw us, the average person. This has happened time and time again. There's some stats at the end I think are absolutely amazing about just how much is out there. I mean, one, it says that we deal with 11 to 12 hours a day of media. But today, there are 120,000 marketing firms in the U.S., and LinkedIn lists 12,000 PR firms. There's over 11,000 lobbyists, an increase of 6,300%, 6,300% in 50 years. At least 98% of that comprises business lobbyists as opposed to public interest lobbyists. And there are more than 20 lobbyists per member of Congress. There's more than 7,000 political action committees, an increase of 2,400% in 50 years. There are nearly 2,000 think tanks, an increase of 3,300% in the last 50 years. Past 15 years, as the influence industrial complex has grown, more than 2,000 American newspapers have disappeared. The people that are supposed to check these things are dying out, is what it comes down to. And then some researchers estimate as much as 60% of all news stories may originate from PR professionals. Now, what I actually really like about this book isn't just the fact that it kind of takes you through the history of all this, but it gives you examples. It gives you facts, and these are things you can check out. It talks about things like, starting off, it's simple things like you needing 2 months of salary to buy a diamond. Utter bullshit. I mean, it's just made out of thin air. The fact that diamonds are rare is, again, complete crap made up out of thin air. We know that Valentine's Day is just made up to sell things. There's so much out there that, you know, we kind of take and you know, a part of our lives that's just really not much, you know, not in reality. Ones I didn't know, Tour de France was started to sell newspapers. Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade was done to push purchasing, you know, Macy's. There was the mention of the Presidential Beer Challenge, which I thought was hilarious. And it talks of things about, like, the Iraq War and how that, you know, was completely made up, and we were sold propaganda of that Dick Cheney gave money or gave information, I think, to the New York Times, and then he did that so he could then reference the New York Times info in press hits to build up sentiment. The book is packed with that. It's not just a, like, here's the history of all this, but, like, here's examples and examples you can check out. And I think that's really awesome, and it does, I think, a fantastic job of doing that with really interesting infographics is what it comes down to. I mean, if you want to, it's not just a, like, oh my god, the world is burning. It gives some ideas as to what we can do to try to stop, and a lot of it just comes down to literacy, media literacy. We've heard that kind of come up in the last year or so, more and more. We absolutely need it. You need to be able to go and look at stories, look at things that are shared, and immediately smell out the bullshit. And that's what this book is about. It's about smelling out the bullshit and the history of all of that. Well worth checking out. Really fascinating read. I highly recommend it. I think it's really, really cool. You should be able to get this now. I don't know if you'll be able to get it in bookstores, or comic book shops, but you'll be able to get it in the bookstores. If you want to try comic book shops, we got a link beneath this video. Put in your zip code. It'll tell if a comic shop is near you. No shop, no problem. We have some links where you can purchase your own. There'll be affiliate links, so we do get a small percentage by doing that. You help support our site, so thank you for that. And again, I want to thank, I think it was Samuel that came up and gave this to me. So thank you, Samuel, for that, and thank you all for watching. If you are into comics, if you're into graphic novels, check us out every single day at graphicpolicy.com. We're on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Tumblr, Instagram, TikTok, Mastodon, Threads, Blue Sky, all at Graphic Policy, keeping it nice and consistent. Until next time, keep reading those comics, and keep it geeky. Hey, thanks for watching the previous video from Graphic Policy Television. Just by watching, you help support our site. Thank you so much. Now, if you're watching these videos, you probably care about geeky things like movies, television, comic books, toys, games, video games, you name it. You can go and subscribe right now to our YouTube channel to stay in touch and catch all the new videos, or check out our website at graphicpolicy.com. There's a nice link on this end of the video. But as always, thank you for watching. Keep on rocking and keep it geeky.